This is the 13th generation Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon, and I absolutely love it. It's thin, it's light, it has a beautiful display. The keyboard is just as good as ever. The webcam is solid, the microphone's great. There's only two things that I would like to see improved with the 14th generation that's likely to come out this year, although has not yet been announced. Number one is the battery life. This is a 6 to maybe 9 hour battery life scenario. And that's including the use of the AI battery mode that I'll show you here in a moment, which is new for this particular model. The other thing is the speaker system. It's still too tinny, and now we're in a world where laptops, well, Windows laptops, they're coming out with better speakers. So it's not like Lenovo doesn't have access or the capability to get those, but hey, I'm not an engineer. All I can tell you is I do wish this had a better speaker, but they're not that bad. And for what you get here, putting the whole package together, it's really an incredible laptop. Now, prices are a bit all over the place. These laptops, they MSRP at like $2,500, sometimes $3,000, depending on your configuration, but you can often get them on sale for less than $2,000. So be a savvy shopper if you can, savvy shopper. Or what you should do is be a really good salesperson and convince your boss to buy it for you and don't care about the price. Okay, let's start with a tour of the device, and then we'll open it up and I'll show you the speeds and everything like that. So first of all, we have this beautiful ThinkPad X1 Carbon logo. Now, historically, we'd have the little accent over the letter I. This little dot would illuminate, but now part of the X also illuminates. I think it looks really cool, but I could have done without the illumination on the X. The entire chassis feels incredibly good. It feels rigid and strong, just like any ThinkPad does, especially those that are thinner, that kind of impressive that they can pass military specifications tests and also be thin and light. And the material is really good at rejecting fingerprints. I've had a lot of black laptops in my life, ThinkPads as well, and unless you're being super greasy, you're not going to really stain this thing, I don't think. Okay, now we also have a Lenovo badge here in the corner. This is kind of a newer thing Lenovo's been doing, and I like it. I think it looks really cool and professional. It's dark. I hope that's coming across well. It's only showing a silver in the camera because I'm shining a light directly on it. But in typical lighting scenarios, like an office scenario, it's dark, like a slate. It's a very cool color. Okay, you also have your camera and microphone array at the top. I've never liked this design, but the one advantage to it is that when you slide your finger across the front of your laptop, it gives you something to hold so you can more easily open your laptop. What a lot of laptops do, if they don't have something like this, is they cut into the plastic. It's what Mac does with the MacBook Pro, for example. So you just put your fingers in between a wedge and separate it. But this is much easier to use. And then it serves the purpose of also storing the camera and the microphone, where you could probably put better technology with this hump rather than integrating it into your monitor chassis, your display chassis. You can see how it's thicker than the rest of the device. So imagine this were integrated and just as high of quality, the entire lid would be thicker. Okay, on the sides. Come into focus, please. So on the left-hand side, we have a full-size USB-A and then two Thunderbolt ports. You can charge from these ports. I'm sorry about the focus there. On the other side, you saw it for a second though, we're good. You have HDMI. Come on, baby. HDMI, full-size USB-A, a microphone, headphone combo jack, the power button, which does pulse to let you know that it's in sleep mode, and then you have a Kensington lock. Notice the wedge-shaped design here. So the laptop is thinner in the front than it is in the back. Visually speaking, I'm also not a fan of this design, but it's a classic ThinkPad thing, and hey, whatever. It's not all about looks, is what I should be saying. Now, pay attention to this cutout here. When you open the monitor, or the lid, I keep saying monitor today. When you open the lid of the laptop, this cutout gives you the opportunity for the laptop to open all the way flat. But something I noticed, and it's going to be very hard for me to show you this on the screen, but when the laptop, as the screen opens up and you get to that flat point on your table, this part of the screen here, this part of the hinge, actually touches the table and it gives a little bit of a lift. I do not think this is intentional. I don't know. I really don't know. But I just noticed that as I was testing it. So you open it up. You get to about here, and it just sort of lightly grazes the table. You'll see, actually, here's the way that you can tell. Watch my hand. See how my hand just moved? Yeah, so it's grabbing at the table and then pulling forward like it can do the worm, right? You know the worm? It's like a dance move that I can't do because I'm old and out of shape. Okay, so, I mean, who cares? It's not that big of a deal, but I just want to call it out, and maybe it is not intentional and it's something Lenovo will fix after watching this. Alrighty, so the keyboard's phenomenal. It's always phenomenal on the ThinkPads. And I think the concern that a lot of people rightfully have with the thin and light carbon is, well, it's not going to be as good as, say a T series or a P series. And the thing about keyboards is it's kind of a personal preference. For me, I love the way this keyboard feels and I love the way it sounds. That's awesome. Now, you may have noticed the screen turned on because with Windows Hello, it will see my face and log me in. It's been very good at that, but it hasn't been perfect. And there are times where I've preferred using the fingerprint sensor, which is a dedicated sensor, over to the right of the Copilot key. But let's stick to the rest of the keyboard before we get to the display. It's really the same keyboard as last generation. It has the Copilot key and it has the the Think nub, the track, was it Think Point? I can never remember, but track point, that's it. Now, I'm not a big track point user. My very first work laptop was, I think, a T14, or T40 rather, but I never got used to the nub. I grew up on desktop PCs, and I don't think I had a laptop until I was in college, but I grew up a long time ago. But even still, I thought, okay, look, the nub is new this year. There's some new features. If you double tap it, then it can activate some features. Now, that double tap does not work very well for me, but I can guarantee you it does work. If you press hard enough, this track point menu is going to pop up, and this is where you can access things such as your battery life, make adjustments to your audio playback, so your output device and the master volume. You can activate a voice mode, so if you want to do a voice to text, say in Microsoft Word, you can do that too. And then your spatial mode for your microphone. It's pretty cool that this is in there, and it gives a little bit more functionality to the track point nub thing. Okay, but back to the keyboard. So, or the keyboard deck, because I'm talking about the track point still. So I've been trying to use it more, not just because of that double tap, but just because I have some issues with the wrist. As you get older and you type a lot, you tend to get some problems. It's from typing. So one thing I noticed is if you hold down the middle key, everyone who's a ThinkPad fan is gonna be like, yeah, dummy. But anyhow, I'm new to this. So hold down that middle key and then you can slide with the track point and it will scroll down on a website or whatever it is you happen to be using. So I'm gonna open up a new website here. Oops, I am using the wrong gestures, Mac gestures. Okay. So as you can see, I put my finger, change the view here, hold down the middle press button, and I just gently slide. And this to me puts less strain on my wrist than actually doing this. And it gives you another option too. If you want another option, then there you have it. Okay. So back to the keyboard. Yes, it feels good. There is a 3-stage backlighting. It's pretty subtle, but it works great. And I will demonstrate that now. See how prepared I am? Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3 being off. So awesome, big fan. Lights back on. There we go. Okay, what else is there to say? The trackpad, oh man, okay. New to this year is a haptic trackpad, but this trackpad is glass because there's a glass model and then a haptic model. So when you do your configuration, or you tell IT to do it for you, if you really want the haptic trackpad, you need to ask for it and make sure that it's included. I have not been able to test the specific haptic trackpad and motor that's included in the X1 Carbon 13th generation, but I have used haptic trackpads from Lenovo before, such as in the Z13 and the Z16, and they are excellent. They are very, very good. But if they're somewhat different here, unfortunately, I can't speak to it. All right, the display. Gosh dang, man. I mean, this display, it crushes. It absolutely rocks. It is an OLED 2.8K, and it's fantastic. Now, for 14-inch laptops, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's age or something. I convinced myself after owning a MacBook Pro 14, I'm done with 14-inch laptops. Like they're just too hard to read. And I think for some reason now, which I think I know the answer. I'll explain in a moment, but everything changed when I got this laptop in. I fired it up. I was like, 14-inch, but hey, it's a carbon. I love carbons. Here we go. And it popped. The contrast is just on point. It's so vibrant. It gets super bright especially for an OLED. And I mean, I'm gonna run it at max. I'm like, man, this thing is great. Why am I all of a sudden a fan of 14-inch screens again? And I think it's the anti-reflective coating. What I should do is put my MacBook side by side, but the MacBook display does not fold down 180 degrees. So, and I'm not a very good video guy, so I don't know how to do that very well. But anyhow, I think that's the big difference here, is that the reflections on glass displays, it's even, Mac does a good job, and they have this new nano coating thing too. But regardless, the laptop I've been using for 3 years is too glossy. This is not glossy, so there's less strain on my eyes. And I really, really like that. Okay, there are some AI features in here. You're probably very well aware now that Microsoft has added this thing called Copilot. I don't think it's worth talking about. It's just searching is really all it is at this point. There's no direct integration with Windows. So for example, if you fire up Copilot, you can't say, okay, Copilot, open up Word or start drafting a love letter to my wife. Open up Excel and create a P&L template. It doesn't do stuff like that. So I'm sure that will come. I hope that it does, because that'd be pretty cool. But as of right now, the AI that we will talk about is AI specific to Lenovo ThinkPad. So by pressing the F8 or mode button with your function lock off, that you access the AI submenu widget. Now, and from here, you have different modes. You have security, you have, where'd it go? There's a bunch of things in here. There's battery, I'm just trying to find, oh, here it is, okay. I'm still getting used to this. So I have my battery mode set to best power efficiency. Now, we all know from being Windows users that you can lower your brightness, change your power settings in Windows from performance to balance to best efficient, and you can reduce your refresh rate from 120 to 60. By the way, this is a 120 hertz OLED screen. You can do all these things, turn off your backlighting, and hope to the Lord you can get 10 hours of battery life on your thin and light laptop. Well, what Lenovo has here is an AI-driven power mode. I don't know what it does. I know that if I put it to best of power efficiency, nothing else changes. So for example, now I'm back into here. My brightness, you saw me fiddling with the brightness, but it didn't like automatically go back to anything. It didn't turn on Energy Saver in Windows. When I go to the power options, it did not change. Oh, it is at best power efficiency. That might have been me. Previously, I don't feel like it did that. Now, the rating right now is another 14 hours of battery life, but I do not trust this because I'm at idle effectively. I'm not really doing anything. So with my testing, I never really exceeded 6 to 9 hours of battery life. But I also did not reduce the refresh rate to 60 hertz. I did not turn off my backlighting when I felt I needed it, which wasn't very often because I mostly test during the daytime when I'm working. And I didn't do all those things to reduce my battery life. I just sort of used the laptop with this AI thing turned on to best power efficiency. And I would adjust the brightness as I felt I needed to. But the good news is I didn't have to jack the brightness up to combat the glare since the reflections are so muted on this awesome display. Okay, now you have two very important features if you're a ThinkPad user, in my opinion. One is your shield and the other is attention mode. So what this will do is using the camera, so you must have, you know how you have the kill switch for the camera up top? You cannot have the kill switch on, okay? So it has to be, the camera has to be visible. But with these two modes, it allows the camera to view if someone's peeking over your screen, over your shoulder rather, and it could possibly see your screen, in which case it will blur your screen, or it can even turn your screen off, which is, I think, super important. Now there's other modes, collaboration and wellness. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what these do. Oh, the wellness mode. Will alert you if your posture is bad. I didn't test with it because I'm sure my standards for posture are different from Lenovo's, but that's what that one does. Okay, so yeah, that's the X1 Carbon. It is, man, it's so good. I love how light and thin this thing is. Like, it is stupid light. I even showed it to my wife. She grabbed it. I was like, hey, you got to hold this laptop. It's bananas. She grabbed it. She's like, wow, that is really light. And the reason that's important is that my wife gives no craps at all about computers. Like, that is not her world. And she would rather never touch one. And yet she liked this one. So we'll make a ThinkPad fan out of her yet. Thank you, Lenovo, for sending this over. Folks, I've got non-monetized links to this laptop on in the description, and a link to the written article on GWW where I will go into more depth once I finish writing it. But it'll be live by the time you see this video. So, okay, thanks everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.